I do find it interesting how preseason it can either stoke the fires of expectations for franchises, or boy, it can already start that seat getting hot.
Which
and those
is
fires
crazy.
go the other way.
Because really, I mean, just I hate to jump on you, but really, you can only hurt yourself in preseason. That's what I think. You can only hurt yourself in preseason. Because if you do well, it's like, oh, it's preseason. You're not going up against starters. You're not showing anything. It's preseason. It doesn't matter. But if you stink it up, if you stink up preseason, then Daniel Jones, people are jumping all on Daniel Jones. All he has done is hurt himself. If he didn't play, if they weren't playing him, we wouldn't even know to hate him so much or to not like how he's playing.
Hate him.
We still hate
Dude,
him.
hate him.
Hate him.
I remember in 2009, and we were literally in preseason. It was Eric Mangini's first year. Brian Dable was calling plays, and we were running stuff that trying to scheme up, trying to win, trying to look good in preseason. And week 2 we go to Denver, and I know this because I traded there the next year, and we get blown out by the Broncos. Not even close. I mean, we couldn't do anything offensively. And I remember talking to one of the Broncos DBs, and they were like, "Bro, you guys did everything you were doing in preseason, in our game." He's like, "We knew everything you guys were going to do because y'all didn't change anything." It's like, "Why do you guys do that?" Go, "I don't know." I was like, honestly, our coaching staff wanted to really look good in preseason, and so they showed a lot of concepts. They showed a lot of things they were doing, and we had a young team that year, so it wasn't and a lot of new pieces, so it wasn't like you could adjust and adapt and do a ton of things. And I thought to myself at that moment, yeah, that's the difference. When I'm in year 7, when I got to Seattle, and that was a team that ended up going on to win the Super Bowl, they were just running vanilla basic concepts. And they, oftentimes it was if it was man-to-man, they want you to go basically find a matchup you like and give that guy a shot. And then there was actually, in particular, one moment when we called a timeout, Pete Carroll walks over, and I walked over to him, and he goes, "What are you thinking?" I was like, "I'm going to throw to so-and-so if he's matched up one-on-one again." And he goes, "Exactly." He's like, "That's exactly what I want you to do." I go, "Perfect." So we go back out there, literally throw up a bomb to him. He ends up catching it for a touchdown. And that was it was such an eye-opening difference between how a team that would eventually move on to win a Super Bowl wanted to operate, wanted to put guys in positions to compete, versus a coaching staff that was just trying to look good. And so to your point, I would actually say there's really no upside in the sense of, if you're a bad football team that's trying to look good and you do look good, you kind of set false expectations. Because a lot of other teams aren't looking at the game the same way you are. And if you do have a poor preseason, it can only then snowball effect. Which, it's funny, the Colts, remember the Colts, Jonas with Peyton? I want to say they historically were awful in the preseason and would always ball out, obviously, during his time with the Colts. You could check that, go back and check that, but I want to say that was one of the things that I used to always look at and bring up and be like, the Colts really never cared that much about preseason. They just want to get to the regular season healthy and feel good about where they were at.
Well, we went undefeated one year, 5-0. 5-0 was it 5? I keep saying 5-0. I think it was 5-0. We went in the.
Well, you would have the Hall of Fame game then.
Hall of Fame game. Maybe it was Osaka. I don't know. Either it was 4 or was 5-0. Osaka.
Oh, okay.
We went to Osaka, Japan. Anyway, we've won 5 games in the regular season. I mean, we went undefeated. Whatever the number of games were, we went undefeated in the preseason with Coach Spurrier his first year, and everybody was like, he has arrived. He has brought that Florida Gators style to the NFL, and it is a wrap.
I mean, and we
got to the regular season, and we won 5 games. 5.
Now, was that during, like, how many rounds of golf do you think Spurrier got in a week?
I don't know, but he told you he was heading there.
How would he say it?
Y'all get in the gym. Y'all get some weights in. You know, get home, get some rest. I'm gonna go hit them greens. I'm gonna go hit a couple balls.
Well, how would players respond to that?
I always felt like if we had enough pros, we would have been a winning team. I just thought we were young, we were immature, and I just didn't think that we handled how I felt like Coach Spurrier respected us as pros. Like, he was always like, we're all pros here. That was his thing. He'd always say, we're all pros here. Like, it's going to show. It's going to show on film. If you're not there, if you don't end up being here, it's because you put it on film or you didn't. Like, we're all pros. Like, hey. And I was like, man, like, this is the greatest coach ever of all time. Like, I love Coach Spurrier because he allowed us to be who we wanted to be. To a fault. It was to a fault because there wasn't enough dudes dudes were going to the club the night before games and stuff like. It was just bad. It was just a bad environment. But I mean, I liked him. I thought his schemes were dope. We didn't have a quarterback either. Back to the original point, we never had a quarterback. He brought in Shane Matthews, love you, bro. Like, Shane, dope dude. Brought in Danny Warfel. Love you, bro. Dope dude. But we didn't have a guy. We didn't have a guy at quarterback. We just did not have a guy. My rookie year, we had 2 guys, and they couldn't figure it out. Norv couldn't figure it out. We nosedived. I really don't even think it was that bad. We just didn't have a kicker. We were losing games by like 1 point. Like every week. But we had Brad Johnson and Jeff George on the same team. And that, that didn't even work out. But you got to have a guy, man. You got to have a guy. And I don't know. I just think preseason says that the New York Giants don't have a guy. Preseason says that the Las Vegas Raiders, they don't have a guy. I just feel like you could figure out all of those things, whatever you're going to figure out, you can figure it out in practice. All those things you want to work out on that, like you said, trying to look good in a preseason game versus, getting the reads and different things and the discussion points from the coach and stuff like that. Like, I get dress rehearsals. So when you have those those 2-squad, dual squad scrimmages and practices and stuff like that, I like the idea of that. I really do. I like the idea of 2 teams coming together, practicing together, and then getting out of there. Instead of sitting all of the starters or deciding to play a couple of them, the couple of them get judged. What if one of these other quarterbacks came out? What if Pat Mahomes didn't do the behind the back? What if we didn't see Caleb play the way that he played? Generally speaking, I was thinking this too, and I was going to ask you about this, and I know we're running long. Well, at least I'm running long because I just don't. I hate the preseason. But I like, when did you make play your best football? Your best football came in like the second quarter or the third quarter of a game because you were able to get a feel for what was going on. You got the information. This is what they're trying to do to me. This is what they're running. Here are the adjustments. Here's the feel of the game. Here's a feel of the speed of the game. All these different elements that go into being able to make plays, the plays that people want to see. Some of those plays, some of that solid play a lot of times don't come until later in the game. And if you're only playing 1 or 2 series in a game, you can't, for me, I would hate to be judged on 1 or 2 series of a game where it's a game of getting into the flow of the game, feeling what's going on in the game, looking at your coaches, looking at your teammates. What are they doing out there? What can we do to be better? Making the adjustment. I just feel like, what is the point of it? And I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
Well, I think the quick answer to that is it used to be kind of the warm-up for guys before the real thing would happen. Obviously, as you know, I know. Now I think it's transitioned to help younger players, rookies, back into the roster guys get their shot. So I will say this. For some of the guys, and I've always got a soft spot in my heart who weren't going to make it to the regular season roster. Some of the last football they may ever play in the NFL, putting on an NFL uniform, NFL field and all that. So there's a soft spot in my heart for those guys. There's a soft spot in my heart for some of those guys that might be the only playing they ever really get, and they bounce around for a few years and that's it. So I understand its purpose. To your point of how many games and all that, because I think you maybe called for one preseason game, maybe one or two.
Just play one.
I think they'll go to 2 at some point soon once they go to 18. But it does seem like there is some big time downside with potential injury risk, etc. But I know Jonas loves it because the Bears are hot right now, Joni.
Oh,
they're hot.
listen,
They've got all the momentum.